Hey everybody, Brian here. So, at the very beginning of August, which is right around the corner, we are finally fulfilling our long-held promise to go to Focus on the Family headquarters in Colorado Springs, Colorado, 80995. What's great is that at the same time that we are going, Adventures in Odyssey is going to be celebrating its 1000th episode with a live show right at Ted Haggard's church. No, I am not making that up. So we are going to go there. We are going to see that show. We are going to see Focus on the Family headquarters. And then on Sunday, August 4th at La Burla Bee in Colorado Springs, we are going to perform our live show telling you all about it. Now, this is a truly live show. We don't have all of the technical ability to stream it as it's happening. So if you want to see it live, you gotta be there live. We're going to be there. We're going to bring merch. We're going to have video. We're going to have pictures. You can buy t-shirts and stickers from us. And we are going to have 2 completely unique pieces of art to auction off for local queer charities. Again, this is only available to you if you are there in Colorado Springs. It's going to be a hell of a time, and it is really coming up fast. So we hope to see you there. Either way, on with the show. Well, usually I like to have us talk about, I like to get our lips flapping a little bit at the very beginning here to warm us up. I like to talk about topical events, but unfortunately, this weekend, nothing has happened.
0 things.
I'm getting the world's weirdest sense of deja vu right now.
Well, nothing happens often.
Yeah, that's true. Huh.
Yeah, Brian, I do have a question for you. Did you, in fact, just fall from a coconut tree? Do you not exist in the context of all that came before you?
Yeah.
Do you want to know how I found out the thing that didn't happen is happening?
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, what happened?
Well, Joe Biden is dropping out of the Democratic race.
What?
Yeah.
Who?
Joseph Robinette Biden. It's Joe.
I didn't even know Joe Budden was running for president.
Joe Biden has officially fallen out of the coconut tree. It's an emoji pasta, so just imagine there's emojis throughout this.
Yeah. Sure.
Joe Biden has officially fallen out of the coconut tree, and Kamala's coconuts are running for president.
Oh, God.
What?
So be prepared to vote for the cunt text of all in which you fuck and what came in you, and save you from one-ear Donald. Send us to 47 of your closest comrades to bless Kamala and her coconuts.
No. So many possible worlds, but we got this one. So many possible worlds, but we got this one.
Welcome to the worst of all possible worlds, the first and only podcast to bless your coconuts every week. I'm the worst of all possible Joshes.
I'm the worst of all possible AJs.
And I'm the worst of all possible Brians.
And folks, this week we're back. It's feeling like a deja vu in a few different ways because last week we talked about
Trump got shot in the other ear this weekend.
Last week, of course, we talked about Chrono Trigger, the classic seminal Japanese RPG. This week, we are talking about yet another RPG, one that rips off Chrono Trigger and other JRPGs pretty heavily.
And so we'll get also seminal in its own way. Honestly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we'll get to that in a moment. But
Yes.
before we talk about today's subject matter, I did want to introduce our 2 guests who are going to be bringing us through this delightful recording today. Our first guest is a returning champion. You might remember her from our episodes about Fireproof and Heaven is for Real, where she was representing the podcast Radio Free Tote Bag. It is Audrey. Audrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Very delighted to talk about this bizarre game.
Yes. The other guest that we have today is the co-host of a podcast called Ponies, which is a retrospective on the animated series My Little Pony and how it relates to the rise of American fascism. Please welcome Korla.
Hello, I'm Korla. I'm a creature.
Audrey, Korla, you two are joining us today to represent the podcast that you jointly co-host, Data Transfer. So before we get into today's subject matter, can you talk a little bit about your show, what it is you do, what it is that you talk about?
Yeah, so we're both huge fans of a little podcast called Ballin' Out Super, and we decided one day that we wanted to hang out with Katie Rose Leon. So we were like, we should start our own show and then have Katie come on. And we succeeded within about like 5 episodes, if I remember correctly. We had her on super early. We decided that we were going to discuss the animated series Digimon Adventures from the perspective of 2 horny trans gremlins.
And how long have you been doing it for?
Oh, gosh, it's been like 1.5 years at this point.
It's always nice to meet a fellow Digi-destined.
Yeah.
Fun fact, AJ's fans are known as the AJ Destined. It doesn't really work, but that's what they go by all the time.
AJ Destin's sound off in the comments. You know what to do, folks.
Oh boy.
Let's see if we can get this week's comments above 100 on the old Patreon.
What I will say is that as someone who did not grow up watching Digimon at all, it is such a delightful
Don't tell
listen.
them that, God damn it.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
It is such a wonderful little jolt of joy in a way that I would describe it as the opposite of Barkley Shut Up and Jam.
It's a jolt of hatred.
Which is a jolt of hatred. And what's so funny to me is we have played bad games on this podcast before. We have played Far Cry 5, which I still maintain is worse than any other video game that's ever been made. Correct. But this is not far above that mark for me. Really? Holy shit, what a disastrous, hurtful, vile, bigoted little piece of media that ultimately is just so boring to me in its like grotesquerie that now I have to sit here and try and defend like minor parts of it that I think are like good a little bit.
You don't have to do anything, man.
I mean, I kind of do because otherwise I'll go insane. But this is bad, Josh. Why are we talking about this game? Please,
Audrey wanted us to.
Because we made you watch a bunch of Christian movies. You're like, okay, I have to destroy these.
This isn't that bad. Whatever. Go ahead, Audrey.
I feel like yours is the podcast to discuss this with a level of tact that like recognizes the way in which having the Star of David be the currency symbol and the currency being called Neo Shackles is horrifying. That's fucked up. However, it exists in this weird sort of pocket context where like organized
of everything
racism
that
wasn't
came before it and after it didn't fall out of a coconut tree.
Where it sort of exists in this little pocket dimension of like 4chanery where like racism was this sort of tongue-in-cheek little, like it was played for laughs in such a casual and ultimately horrifying way, knowing what 4chan became, but at the time seemed so harmless and sort of benign in its way.
Yeah, the lingua franca at the time was one of like a perpetually enforced irony, just a cloud of miasma of like insincerity, so that no matter what you say, however vile, everyone has to assume that you're just fucking with them.
I see all that, but what's so interesting about this game is that there is a very sincere attempt to tell a story through the lens of that insincerity, and that makes the whole project completely fall apart.
I had a feeling this might be your opinion, AJ, and I fundamentally disagree, but I think this also comes back to pieces about like how you treat narrative structure, development, and gameplay. So there's a lot of different pieces that we're going to have to talk about here today with Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden. That is the game that we are talking about. It is
a title.
What a title. RPG Maker game that was released in the year 2008. And we should talk just a little bit here about the background. I don't have a lot of details here. What I do know...
They're hard to find.
Yeah, it's because a lot of it is lost now. You know, it is...
I mean, there were like 3 articles with interviews with the creators that happened around the time that they did the Kickstarter for the second game.
Right.
But even those just don't get very deep into it. It's just like one of them is like Bleacher Report. Like it's kind of big publications talking about it, but it doesn't really dig into anything other than you guys made this funny game. They're like, yeah, it was free. And then a lot of people played it. How about that? We just made $100,000 on Kickstarter.
Yeah. And the core developers of the original Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden were Bort, C Boyardee, and GZ. And just to break out each of these guys, Bort, aka Crushing Bort on Twitter, as he was known for a long time, Legendary poster.
His real name is Brian Raum.
Probably his best known tweet is one that I still think of all the time, which is, well, I'd say I'm fiscally conservative, but socially very liberal. The problems are bad, but their causes are very good.
Great tweet. Great fucking tweet.
Fantastic tweet.
The other big thing that Bort was known for was in 2014, he and another guy on Twitter exposed Benny Johnson for being a serial plagiarist. Benny Johnson is a writer. He's a right-wing piece of shit guy who keeps bouncing between jobs and keeps getting fired for being a plagiarist.
Johnson's whole thing was he was at BuzzFeed originally. He was with like mainstream publications. Benny Johnson used to have this like really soy like cartoon character avatar. I think he's still like actively closeted, but there have been these really funny moments where like one time he posted, I think it was like the Army's website, and then he got a banner ad on the side that was for gay cruises. And he was like, this is the kind of ads that's running on the military website. And they're like, those are personalized, Benjamin. those are for you.
But ultimately, abort. You know who did, in fact, abort a good bit of his career was Bort, the poster. See what I did there?
Is he not still around on Twitter?
He's not. No, his account's been gone for a long time. I think he just kind of, well, and we'll get into this a little bit toward the end when we talk about like the attempts to make Barkley 2. He just sort of dropped off the face of the internet.
So the same thing happened with C-Boy-RD. Eric Shoemaker was a very, very early YouTuber.
Yep.
And animator. So he came from like the Newgrounds scene of weird, edgy animation that didn't really care about copyrights or trademarks or anything like that. Played a lot into seemingly ironic racism. His most famous works, I guess, after Barkley shut up and jammed Gaiden, he made Dilbert 1 through 3.
The animation is very grotesque, I would say, intentionally so. He was one of the earliest like Shrek memers. Part of the reason that Shrek has become the meme that it has is due to the early work of guys like C-Boy-RD, and I'm not even joking.
Almost entirely because of him. Yeah, he made Shrek is Drek.
Shrek is Drek, yeah.
Which was like a video. It's kind of like the Onion article, I understand the Muppets on a deeper level than you. It's like him having a conversation with a guy online who said that Shrek was Drek and being like, oh yeah, real clever. You rhymed these two things. But understand there are real fandoms out here and they fucking care about Shrek.
And he just becomes increasingly angry, agitated, and shouty over the course of the video. But it is, to be clear, just the one joke. The joke is you say Shrek is Drek. Shrek is not, in fact, Drek, and I am angry at you about it.
And then he did the Shrek joke of the day. And he did a number of videos. The first one is him doing a very long setup to the idea of making a Shrek joke.
Now, who would do something like that?
And then he's like, have you ever heard of Chiang Kai-shek? Well, what if it was Chiang Kai-Shrek?
Yes. Sure.
Yes. Yeah. These videos were so funny and had such a popular following that at one point on Twitter, a young man named @BoshJ once tweeted @C-Boy-RD, hey, love your Shrek comedy and how you bring something unique to the table every time. Can we be, quote, twit friends? End quote.
Conclusion to that saga, we did not, in fact, become twit friends.
There's still time, Josh.
No,
Josh,
there is not. There isn't.
There is emphatically no time.
I don't think he's dead, but he's not.
He completely dropped off in 2013. I think he privated all of his videos.
Yep.
2014, he deleted the account. And then by 2016, he stopped using anything using either his real name or his known aliases.
Yeah, the only reason that we even have any C-Boy-RD videos left is archivists, fans of his who have re-uploaded it.
Well, I mean, when you got that canned pasta money, you know, I would retire from the internet too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because he was the real Chef
Boyardee. Yes. The notorious Italian pervert that we need to destroy at all costs.
Part of the pasta dynasty.
What's the pasta dynasty? Curious to hear more about this.
Bertolli's in there.
Okay.
The Ragu Kairetsu.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, people don't know this, but Prego was actually a tycoon.
So...
Oh, and to round all of this out, they brought in someone who had actually made games before.
Oh, right. Yeah, the third guy.
Jesse Saranowitz, aka GZ Storm,
Right.
who made Flash games about a potato for a while.
Cool. Did you play it?
I was not familiar with these games. Again, I had dial-up internet until I was a junior in high school, which was like 2008. So I didn't have much familiarity with online culture other than
That's so 2000 and late.
yeah, it is. And
I'm not that.
and that's why like my only online culture stuff was like the IMDb message boards, which all like didn't have images or anything. They loaded pretty fast. But Jesse Saranowitz is still out there. He's working on a number of different series of games, including Legacy of Epstein.
Okay.
He kind of seems like he's just sort of doing the same stuff that he was 20 years ago.
So I can sort of see just from these three guys how the thing ended up becoming the way that it was. Because, Bort, very funny guy, lots of great posts, and sort of became part of the weird Twitter left. C. Boyardee, specific aesthetic, very specific sense of humor, no real politics to speak of.
And I want to say, like, this very specific sense of humor is absolutely of a kind from, like, the Newgrounds culture.
Yeah.
You have shit like The Game and like Alien Hominid and Fur Babies that are all exactly this. It's pushing the envelope in ways that make a 16-year-old laugh.
It's interesting, too, that now we're seeing this interesting renaissance of old Newgrounds guys because of Smiling Friends.
Yes.
Right? Where like no less than Tom Fulp even shows up on the show as a voice actor.
Korla and Audrey, what was your experience with Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden originally?
There was a girl I had a crush on in high school.
Okay.
Okay.
She had very singular tastes, was obsessed with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and found this game somehow, and just became obsessed with it. So in my pursuit to get her attention, like you do as an insecure high schooler, I was like, I'm going to make my identity about this funny game. At least it's free.
Wait, so like you're full, did you seriously just become obsessed with it, or like...
I tried.
You attempted to become obsessed with it and failed?
I tried and failed. Because even at the time, I'm like, I have to distance myself from like most of what is here. It's a lot. I wasn't politically aware at the or even just racially aware at the time. So stuff like dropping the word Octoroon twice in the intro, you know, didn't bat an eye.
Knowing how old this game was when I played it, and the font is a little weird and the kerning is a little tight. So I first read it as Octomom, and I was like, oh, they made a reference to LeBron James marrying Octomom. Sure, fuck it. And I was
also
like,
that would have
wait a
been,
second.
that absolutely would have been like in the zeitgeist at the time. That totally could have been.
Yeah, no, it's just super old-timey racism because it's a word that they discovered on Encyclopedia Dramatica, and they were like, let's put it in.
That's right.
I have a design statement from GZ and whichever one is Ryan, I forget.
That one's Bort.
Ryan and I had long conversations into the night about trash we thought was funny, about mechanics we thought would be funny, and we made a game out of all of them.
And it does feel like that, right? This feels like 20-somethings like sitting around and putting all their inside jokes into a game. It actually kind of feels like a homebrew D&D game.
Especially when it turns into a D&D game.
Yeah,
particularly.
It's just that it also feels like you are guesting in a D&D game and are told none of the rules, and they exclusively do those inside jokes for the whole of it. So for most of this, I was like, I can see why someone would find this funny. I just have no reference point for any of it.
I had an extremely internet poison friend named Kate. I was in college. They were a fixture in the bisexual student org, which I was a part of. We were all hanging out drinking one night, and she just looks at me and she goes, "Have you ever heard of Barkley Shut Up and Jam Gaiden?" And I went, "No, what is it?" So we download it on my laptop and we start playing it, and Octoroon gets dropped immediately, and I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, what could this possibly be? But I did kind of get into it. I did kind of go with it. Played through the whole thing in the course of a couple weeks. There is a Facebook post from me with a screenshot of the moment after you kill Kobe Bryant, with Barkley just saying, "Kobe, I just killed Kobe Bryant," which I thought was the funniest thing on earth, that there would be a JRPG line talking about killing Kobe Bryant. And I was really enamored with the world building and the idea of taking Space Jam to its logical conclusion.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
I mean, that's the thing that we need to note, of course, about Barkley Shut Up and Gem Gaiden. It says at the very beginning, and we know this throughout, this game is canon.
So many possible
Hey there, you are listening to a preview of a premium episode of The Worst of All Possible Worlds. If you'd like to listen to the rest of this, head on over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/worstofall. And you can listen to not only the rest of this episode, but our entire backlog of premium episodes, bonus episodes, and if you subscribe at the $10 tier, you will get an extra episode of the podcast every single month. Again, that is patreon.com/worstofall. Hope to see you there.